I'm George Galloway, and I'm the founder of All for Unity, which is running hard in the Scottish Parliament elections, which take place on the 6th of May. The postal ballots are beginning to drop, so it could be that before you fill in your postal ballot, you get the chance to hear from me and other All for Unity candidates. I certainly hope so. Here we are in glorious New Lanark, an absolute jewel in Scotland's crown. Very important to a man like me of a labour and trade union background, because it was exactly here, of course, that the great early socialist Robert Owen laid down some of the template for the better society. He said, in place of their poverty, let there be wealth. In place of their ignorance, let there be knowledge. In place of their anger, let there be kindness. And crucially, in place of their divisions, let there be union. That's right, Robert Owen, the early socialist. In place of their divisions, let there be union. And that is essentially my creed, from my earliest years until now, and until I draw my last breath. I support the union of the United Kingdom for the same reasons that 50 years ago I joined the Transport and General Workers Union. All for one and one for all. United we stand, divided we fall. An injury to one is an injury to the other. I am my brother's keeper, and my brother is also my keeper. Unity is strength. We're stronger together, and we are better together. And we've been together for more than 300 years. There has never been a good time to break up Britain. Before the existence of Britain, Scotland was a land of warring clans and kings and pretenders and warlords, with Scottish people fighting and dying on each of the sides in any battlefield. Before there was Britain, Scotland was a land of serfs, where ordinary people like my ancestors and probably yours were literally the property of the clan chief of the local landowner, and that included being the property on the battlefield, being fodder on the battlefield. That's one of the reasons why I'm so angry about this Bannockburn mania, a movie made by an Australian, entirely fictional, about two French-speaking kings fighting to control the serfs and the land, and for no other reason. There's no freedom on offer at Bannockburn. Maybe freedom for this king or that king, but no freedom for the ordinary people. And no democracy, of course, either. And I'll come back to that point later in my address. So, when I say I believe in the union, it's not for the same reasons that everybody else believes in the union. I have my own reasons. I'm a unionist, first and foremost, because I'm a trade unionist. And I'm a trade unionist because of the ideals of Robert Owen, who founded this magnificent experiment in a new way of living, a new way of constructing society. Now, we are deep into the election campaign now. We know that because Nicola Sturgeon is offering to do all kinds of things that she hasn't done over the last 14 years that the SNP have been in power. I don't know whether to laugh or cry when I hear the SNP announcing that they're going to do this and do that, when over the last 14 years they haven't done this or that or anything positive. It's very hard, actually, to delineate exactly what achievements the SNP have to their credit. Certainly impossible to find any achievements that they have to their credit that weren't actually a result of the Union. This is something that is difficult for me, a highly numerate person, a successful person over many years. I find it hard to believe that so many of my compatriots, including some that were educated when education really was something in Scotland, who don't even seem to have the ability to count. Every single Scottish person, everyone, gets nearly £2,000 extra from the Treasury through the Barnett formula than anyone else does in the rest of the United Kingdom. Imagine. So the United Kingdom divvies out the money, but they give us nearly £2,000 a head per year extra, for good reasons. I'm not opposing it. I knew Joel Barnett very well. He frequently talked to me about his Barnett formula. He was very proud of it, and I was very glad of it, as every Scottish person should be. £16 billion is the Scottish shortfall between what we raise in taxes and what we spend here in Scotland. That's not counting, by the way, the £10 billion in COVID money that has been sent from the Treasury. And there are big questions, actually, on how that COVID money has been spent, if indeed it has been spent. It certainly didn't arrive at all the destinations it was supposed to arrive at. In fact, there's a rather suspicious correlation in the addresses at which it did land and membership and support of Scottish nationalism. But that's perhaps for another day. So, just like Robert Owen distributed equally, distributed fairly, the proceeds of this great enterprise here, that's what the United Kingdom does. That's what a union is. It distributes resources where they are most needed. And my goodness, Scotland has needed those resources because of our geographical spread of population, because of our place in the cycle of industrialization and deindustrialization, because of the poverty. The East End of Glasgow is the poorest place in Europe and has a life expectancy less than many parts of the so-called third world. We need it, and we get it. We get it more than any other part of the United Kingdom. I'm here to tell you that. I have been elected to Parliament 6 times, to the Westminster Parliament. And I've represented the East End of London, which is just as poor as the East End of Glasgow. I've represented Bradford in Yorkshire, which is just as poor as the East End of Glasgow. So don't tell me that we are somehow robbed by being in this union. The absolute opposite is the truth. And too many people are not prepared to grasp that. Even if they do know it, they turn their eyes away from it. Scotland is in a bad place after 14 years of SNP rule. No one could deny that. By any metric, by every metric, we are worse off today than we were 14 years ago when the SNP came into power. Our schools, which were once a source of great pride to us, are now performing so poorly that when the OECD, an international inquiry into our school outcomes, produced a report, the SNP government had to lock it away until after the election in May. God knows what's in it. You certainly won't know what's in it until it's too late. Our legal system, which was once our pride and joy. We used to boast about it. Yeah, we've got our own separate, ancient legal system. Is now maliciously prosecuting people. Their words, not mine. Maliciously prosecuting people to whom we have to then pay scores of millions of pounds in compensation. No one's safe. Not even the former First Minister of Scotland, who was set up in order to send them to prison, possibly for the rest of his life, in order to settle internal party scores. Scotland, where once we were building ships of steel that sailed the 7 seas, laden with our manufactures, now cannot even produce 2 ferries for the Isles, despite the expenditure of hundreds of millions of pounds, and years behind schedule. Scotland, the land of Adam Smith, of John Smith, now the land where we do deals with dodgy Indian entrepreneurs over the smelter. Mr. Gupta, now the proud owner of 113,000 acres of prime hunting land. We gave him millions of pounds for a smelter that has never smelt. Although the whole story is beginning to smell, to such an extent it won't be long before the police are again calling. We have guaranteed Mr. Gupta £363 million of your money, whether he produces a pound of aluminium, whether he produces a dozen jobs. That's a guarantee that we have given him. Not that we can necessarily believe the paper that all of that wasn't written on. Fergus Ewing of the SNP met him for a very sumptuous dinner. We know the menu at the dinner, but we don't know what was said and agreed at the dinner. Because, according to Mr. Ewing, there are no emails, no texts, and no telephonic communication in advance of that dinner. All we know is that Gupta is laughing all the way to the hunting range on the magnificent Highland estate that we gave him when we gave him the smelter. Adam Smith would be turning in his grave. Scotland, a land where we used to send people out all around the world, spreading, amongst other things, the values of the Scottish Enlightenment, has now become a land where your own children can report you to the police for what you said around your own dinner table in your own house. Imagine. My father said something that might be hate speech. My uncle spoke something in his own dining room that might have been hate speech, and the police will have to come and investigate. That's the hate crime bill that the SNP have introduced. It'll produce nothing but hate. Nothing but hate will come of it. That's SNP rule. Scandal after scandal after scandal. Some of the scandals so vile, I don't even want to talk about them on the screen for fear that children will see them. It seems at times that deviant are the new normal in the upper reaches of the SNP. We've got the SNP giving grants to people who are part of an alliance which is campaigning to get the law out of adolescent sexual activity. No law for adolescent sexuality. Do you know when an adolescent begins? According to the definition of the World Health Organization, 10 years old. I sometimes have to check myself when I feel so angry about what the SNP have done to this country. They have torn it apart. Almost right down the middle, 55-45. I was one of the campaigners in the referendum in 2014. I was one of those that won that great victory for Scotland to remain in the United Kingdom. The problem was that those who lost have never acknowledged their loss. They've never accepted the result. They've plunged us into a never-ender, plunged us onto this hamster wheel that we simply must get off. And it's in our own hands. This is my final point, and it's the most important one. The SNP have done all of this with a minority of the vote. Never mind the minority of the electorate as a whole. They're not even 25% of the electorate as a whole, but they're not even 50% of the votes cast, and yet they have been able to do all this harm. How? The answer is obvious. Because those of us that represent the majority are divided, standing against each other in 72 constituencies across Scotland, standing against each other to be third or fourth, fighting to be in third place rather than fourth, instead of clearing the field for the best placed pro-union candidate to take on the SNP. This was All for Unity's first big idea, but not our only one. Our first big idea was that the other parties should not contest elections they have no chance of winning. They didn't listen. So now the voters have to do it for them. The voters have to make up their mind looking at the facts, and we have distributed widely what those facts are. You should vote for the best placed pro-union candidate on the purple ballot paper on the 6th of May, or earlier if you've got a postal ballot. And on the peach-coloured, orange-coloured ballot paper, the efficient, smart way of maximising pro-union support, of locking down the union, supergluing it, is to vote for us in the south of Scotland, for me in central Scotland, my good friend and next speaker, Mary Devlin. Mary Devlin is one half of the popular social media outlet, The Majority. They produce some truly wonderful stuff. She's a businesswoman. She's been a businesswoman on 3 continents. She's forgotten more about business than the people running Scotland have ever known. Mary Devlin would be an asset to the Scottish Parliament, to the Scottish people, and to the people of central Scotland. I ask you to give your attention now to my colleague, number 1 on our central Scotland list, Mary Devlin. Mary.
Hello, my name is Mary Devlin, and I am the lead candidate for All for Unity in the Central Region, and I am also the business spokesperson for All for Unity. And it is wonderful to be here today in New Lanark, which was the home of some of the Industrial Revolution in Scotland, and also the home of a social experiment in social care for workers. So today I would like to talk to you about business and about jobs. I have spent most of my life, I have over 30 years work experience working in Japan, in the USA, and now in the UK. And Scotland these days is particularly in need of people with business experience. We have had 14 years of SNP failure, basically, and 14 years of a government that doesn't know very much about business, and certainly doesn't seem to care very much about business. Even the very well-known businessman Tom Hunter, who is one of the richest men in Scotland, he's made his money from business, has said that the Scottish government, they lack business experience, that they don't have the skills that we need to be able to get Scottish business back on its feet. Now, I know I'm talking about business, but what we're really talking about here are people and people's jobs. Some of those people might be business owners. And I have worked with business owners for a long time. I've worked with hundreds of business owners in different countries. And I know how difficult it is to run a business. I know how difficult it is to keep a business going. I know how difficult it is to create jobs and to retain those jobs. Now, in these particular times in Scotland, trying to recover from this COVID pandemic, it's more important than ever that we concentrate on people's jobs, because people's jobs also mean people's health and people's well-being. But what we need are people with skills and experience. What we have in the Scottish Government and what we've seen from them is basically just incompetence and waste. People there, they don't know, they've never actually worked in a business. We have people who are ministers responsible for businesses who have gone to university, they studied a subject, for example history, and then they've gone straight into politics. They have no real life experience, no business experience. And that's not what we need these days. The people in small businesses, they're suffering. They've either been really trying to keep their businesses going, they've been trying to keep their employees employed, and the people who work there, they've had to live with all of this uncertainty. It's not just in the small scale, the uncertainty, but also on a wider scale. I remember back in the 80s when I was studying engineering at university, in Scotland, if I opened the newspaper every day, there would be announcements about businesses coming to Scotland. A new company from Japan has just set up, for example, a printed circuit manufacturing company, or a company from the US is here and they're manufacturing some type of small computer. These days, I open the newspaper and it's a very, very rare sight indeed. And I understand the reasons for that. In Scotland, we now have what we call a never-ending. Businesses don't know if there's going to be another referendum in Scotland. People don't know if there's going to be another referendum in Scotland. It is endlessly talked about. But until we can get over this, until we can get more business certainty and more certainty into the economy, things will not improve. What I would like to see in Scotland is more businesses coming here from all over the world, setting up in Scotland. You know, we didn't get a Tesla factory. We didn't get that new beautiful Volt factory that was opening up, that's been announced for England last week. Where are the companies and where are the manufacturers that should be coming to Scotland? When those companies do come, when we can get over this never-ending in Scotland and those companies come, then people will have new jobs, they will have good jobs to go to work. And that's what we need here in Scotland. So please, we need to get over the SNP failure that has been going on for many, many years now. We've mentioned about the rusting ferries that we have, the factories that get money and loans for that never get built. All of these things are just SNP headlines. They are never followed up with any type of real action. And they're certainly not employing the people of Scotland. So let's put an end to this. Let's put an end to this never-ending. Let's get Scotland back to business. Let's save our Scotland. So please vote for me in Central Region, and please vote for my other colleagues in the other regions. They are also experienced, professional business people and people from all walks of life. Doctors, lawyers, people who work in education, small business owners. These are the kind of people that we need leading Scotland and leading Scotland out of this COVID recovery time. So please vote for All for Unity, and I would like to introduce my colleague in Central Region, Mr. Matt Alexander. Thank you.
Hi to everyone in the Central Scotland region. My name's Matt Alexander. I'm 62 years old and I'm standing for All for Unity in the Central Scotland region. At 62, I've seen a lot of elections in my time, and I'm pretty sure this is the most important one for Scotland and its people, for all the people of Scotland and Central Scotland in particular. The reason I say that is that this election isn't about the next 5 years. It's not about how many more promises the SNP are likely to break over the next 5 years. It's about the next 30 years and beyond. It's about a period which will probably be very important for everyone, their grandchildren, their children, beyond my time here on earth. What people decide in this election is going to make a huge difference to the future for all of us. My reason for getting involved is I have 3 children, 2 grandchildren and another young granddaughter on the way. I'm not a career politician. I've never had ambitions to be a politician. But when I heard that All for Unity were going to stand against the SNP and their separative ambitions, I felt I absolutely had to get involved. My vote alone was not enough. I had to try and make my voice heard, and that's why I'm here today, to support everyone else in the party All for Unity, to make sure that we can stop Scotland being wrenched away from the rest of the UK. There's so much at stake, not so much for myself, but as I say, for those that come after us. Our children and grandchildren will not thank us if in 20 years' time they find themselves part of a minor country set adrift from the best neighbours and allies that we've ever had and ever will have. So I'm just asking everyone in Central Scotland to place their vote on the regional list. That's the peach-coloured ballot paper. Vote for All for Unity. Save Scotland for all its peoples, and make sure that the SNP don't do any more damage to the country that I love. Thank you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Mary Devlin are the lead candidates in the south of Scotland and in central Scotland. But the best line of the day came from Matt, who's number 3 on our list in central Scotland. This election, as he put it, is not about what promises the SNP are going to break over the next 5 years. They've broken so many, from the abolition of council tax to closing the attainment gap in education to solving the chronic, desperate problem of child poverty. They've broken all of these promises already. No one in their right mind believes them when they say they're going to do these things now. But as Matt said, it's not about that. It's about whether or not we spend the next 5 years as we spent the last 5 years on the hamster wheel, in the never-ending, in the endless politics of grudge and grievance, in the endless manoeuvring to break up this beautiful country of ours. That's really what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that you'll vote smart, vote tactically, and on the orange ballot paper, vote for All for Unity. Thank you very much. God bless this treasure of New Lanark.